So, good afternoon and welcome to this, my second video on Dulce Decorum S. Now, this video is following the idea of how to answer a literature-styled question on a poem that you already know. So if you've not watched the first video, you need to go back, just watch that first video, and you'll see me talking through and understanding the ideas in the poem. For this video, we're going to be looking to write this essay or literature style answer to this question. What does Owen reveal about the true nature of war in this poem? Then the task is to write a thesis statement and 3 what, how, why paragraphs that explore and explain your answer. Now, I've given you a little sentence starter for how to put that thesis statement together, which I've just put a star next to here. Very badly drawn star, actually. So, we're looking at, in the poem, Dulce Decorum S, Owen reveals something, something, and something. I would think about this as big idea number 1, big idea number 2, and big idea number 3. If I give you an example of what I mean, if we look at the first stanza, and I'll just read it to you. Bent double, like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep. Many had lost their boots, but limped on, bloodshot. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of our tired, outstripped 5-9s that dropped behind. So that's that first stanza. And I need to think of one big idea. Remember, ideas or thoughts or points, if you're used to doing a P or a petal paragraph, they're not quotes. We need an idea. We want to think about what the writer has used, how the writer has used it, why the writer has used it. So just looking at that first paragraph, that first stanza, I'm picking out the idea of perhaps the degradation that the soldiers face. I'm picking out the idea of a lack of humanity. I'm picking out the idea that it's very depraved, it's unpleasant, and the soldiers are, it sounds like they're dead on their feet, it sounds like they've already died, it feels like they're in hell. And Owen makes that really clear through a use of a lot of these sort of similes that we see throughout. That might be how I might introduce that idea. So if I just go back to my sort of little gap over here, in the poem Dulce Decorum S, Owen reveals big idea number 1. I'll write it down here so it's nice and clear. Big idea number 1, I might go for something like the soldiers face hell on earth on a daily basis. Comma. And that'd be my first idea that I just pop into this little box. What I would like you to do is now go back, look at stanza 2, look at stanza 3, finish off putting together that thesis statement. What you might want to do is pause the video. Once you've done that, come back, press play, we'll carry on. So now that you've done that, I'm going to just go and look at this first paragraph I'm going to write. So I've given you a few sentence starters here. What I might think about is how can I put that together? How am I going to create this first paragraph? And I'll do this first one with you. What might be nice is if you copy this one onto your Word document or into your book or onto your paper, however you're recording this lesson. I might start with then, the writer uses. And I'd be thinking about all the different bits of figurative language that Owen uses in this first stanza. I might go for the idea of like old beggars under sacks. I could go for coughing like hags. I could go for cursed through sludge, not walked or moved. We could go for the haunting flares. We could talk about how people had lost their boots. But I quite like this bit. All lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue. That's going to be the quote that I'm going to be thinking about. So, the writer uses figurative language. And we're talking about soldiers facing hell on earth on a daily basis. I'm not going to say the same thing twice. I'm not going to repeat myself. I want to rephrase that idea and make it more powerful. The writer uses figurative language to explore the tragic and horrific circumstances that the soldiers face. So I've said what the writer's done. Now I'm going to say how the writer did it. And all I'm going to do there is select my quote. Interestingly, I quite like this bit of repetition. All went lame. All blind. So we've got that repetition of that all. And if I was showing off, I'd say that that's a bit of anaphora. So let's talk about that then. Owen uses anaphora, that repetition of the first word or phrase in a sentence or clause. Owen uses anaphora in the line split with caesura. That's that punctuation in the middle of a line that makes the reader stop and focus. Owen uses anaphora in the line split with caesura, stating all went blind. All lame. Ooh, now I think about that, I think I've got that in slightly the wrong order. Have I? All went lame, all blind. Oh, it's one of the beauties of making videos live. Lame, blind. Owen uses anaphora in the line split with caesura, stating all went lame, all blind, which creates a very emotive connection between the reader and the voice in the poem. So I'm liking this now. We've got some good stuff in there. I've talked about what the writer uses. I've said how the writer did it, using that caesura, using that anaphora, that repetition, zooming us in on an idea. And I want to think about these two states they talk about. They talk about lame and they talk about blind. So let's zoom in on those words. I'd be thinking, right, they're a state, that makes it, it's an abstract noun, or it's a noun. So the nouns, lame, remember my quote marks, and blind, highlight the terrible conditions the soldiers face. But I want to show off a little bit. I want to talk about what a reader might infer. So, lame and blind. Now, remembering what we talked about yesterday, how this poetry is a response to the poetry of Jesse Pope, we're sort of seeing how, this lame and blind might be a reflection of how the public are lame and blind to the actual tragedy of the war. So I really want to dig into that idea. So perhaps the writer is drawing attention to how the public are metaphorically lame and blind to the true nature of the war. Apologies, this isn't the neatest handwriting in the world, but I didn't want to spend forever creating this little model for you. So hopefully that helps. Remember, the task is to write your thesis statement and then 3 paragraphs just like this one I've done. So you've got your first one done, so I'm looking for 2 more ideas to fill in these bits, and then 1 paragraph and another explaining those ideas. Good luck with that. Stay safe. See you soon.